Okay. Good morning. We're still awaiting the arrival of one more commissioner. But at this time, I just want to state if anybody plans on speaking today on any of the cases, could you please make your way over to Eileen to sign the registration or to register? And we'll get started here shortly.
Hi, Becky, this is Charlene. Can you go to my office and there's a folder right there by the desk and it says Corona? Jose, Luis, and Elizabeth, can you look in there and call them and tell them that they're coming to the meeting? If, can you call them to see if they're coming to the meeting, the PNC meeting? They aren't here yet. Okay. Thank you. Becky.
Hey Mel, it's Janine. Hey. Well, we don't have a quorum. Oh, yeah. Okay, all right, thank you. Okay, bye-bye. He will be online in 30 minutes. 30 minutes.
Yes, sir.
All right, great to have you on. Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. I want to thank everybody for waiting so patiently, but we now have our we now have our fourth commission member or fourth commissioner. So let's say, oh yeah, I have to do this. Now we're official. Welcome everybody to the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting of July 27th. We'll go ahead and get started. Eileen, would you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Underwood? Commissioner Lear?
Here.
Commissioner Jimenez?
Present.
Chair Montañez?
Present. At this time, I will call for any approval or changes to the agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
Okay, agenda's been moved and second for approval. All in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Agenda moves forward. Now we're moving forward to approval of the minutes from the regular meeting of July 13th, 2023.
I'll make the motion to approve the minutes from the regular meeting of July 13th, 2023.
Second.
All right. Approval of minutes been moved and second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? All right. Minutes of July 13th, 2023 have been approved. We have no old business. We'll move on to new business, starting with case number SU 23-017.
Good morning. Please state your name and address for the record.
Charlene Santisteban, 845 North Mocha Boulevard.
Do you affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth under penalty of law?
Yes.
Thank you.
Charlene, the floor is yours.
Good morning, Commissioners, the Chair. Okay, we're here to hear SU, Special Use Permit SU 23017. The owner applicant is Tim S. Jackson, owner. Edward Avalos is the applicant. The location is 3860 Tierra Road, Las Cruces, New Mexico. The zoning is D1, low-density residential. It's not limited, it's D1. A special use permit for a 1.657 acre parcel to allow an accessory dwelling not exceeding 1,250 square feet. It is a D1L zone. This is location map. The land use, aerial, surrounding uses. The description of the property, the subject property is 1.657 acre lot located in a D1L limited low-density residential. The property is residential. The property does have a domestic well and a septic tank. The property was purchased by the Jacksons November 14th, 2015. Access is from Tierra Road, a private road by easement, width unknown. Prior to February 2nd, 2017, the subject property was zoned ER3 residential district. But with the UDC, it went to a D1 limited zone. The D1 zoning, D1L zoning, permits single-family site-built homes and manufactured homes. In 2014, these are the existing conditions. In 2014, a 23 by 30 pole barn was permitted by the previous owner, permit number 39602. Sometime after November 2014, a new structure, 55 by 30, was added. Between April 2017 and May 2018, new siding and a new roof was built and a metal carport was constructed. On February 22nd, 2023, Mr. Jackson stated that it was a metal building and they completed an interior remodel to convert it to a single-family home. In December 2020, a 16 by 20 a site-built home was constructed where the existing mobile home was removed. The home was advertised on Airbnb.com as a vacation rental and has been removed from Airbnb.com on March 2nd, 2023. This is a historical timeline. There are currently 3 to 4 unpermitted structures on the property. Between April 2017 and May 2018, there was also a metal carport constructed on the permit without a permit. Between April 2020 and December 2020, the mobile home was removed from the aerial photo. It appears there are 2 mobile homes or shipping containers and an RV. There was no MHIP applied for with the DAC for the removal or replacement of a mobile home. The timeline verified with Google aerial maps. Sometime after December 2020, a site-built home was constructed where the mobile home was removed. The home was posted on Airbnb as a vacation rental. The New Mexico Administrative Code states that permits required subject to Construction Industries Licensing Act, CILA, Section 60-133 and Section 60-13-45, and MSA 1978. And it rules no building or structure shall be erected, constructed, enlarged, altered, repaired, moved, improved, removed, converted, or demolished, no electrical wiring, plumbing, or mechanical work, or LP gas work as defined and described in the application applicable. New Mexico construction codes for those trades may be installed, repaired, altered, or maintained in or on such buildings or structure unless the applicable permit has been obtained for the appropriate use. So this is the historical with Google Maps, and it's satellite images, and the date is March 17th, 2014, and you see there's no pole barn then. This was before the construction of the pole barn, but the mobile home is on the northwest portion of the property. This is Google Earth, April 2019. The mobile home is still there, no carport. Addition north of the pole barn, additions north of the pole barn, and it's outlined in red. That was the initial pole barn that was permitted. Mobile home on the property is still on, in March 2019, the mobile home is on the northwest of the property is still there. Carport built to the north of the home, new roof over entire garage and home, porch added to front of home. And Google Earth, December 2020, mobile home removed from the property, carport extended. Google Earth, April 2023, accessory dwelling on the property divided by a fence line. This is a parcel close-up, and this image is from our aerial photos in 2018. And this is the zoning map. This is the overall site plan. You can see the home and then the accessory dwelling. 12 letters of notification were mailed to the area properties on June 29th, 2023 for a special use permit for an accessory dwelling not exceeding 1,250 square feet. Notice was posted in the Las Cruces Sun-News on June 27th, 2023. Signs were posted on the property in a timely manner. No written opposition was received. This is the P&Z hearing, our sign that went up on the property. This is the notification, area of notification. And this is the accessory dwelling. We're looking west. And you can see it's all fenced in. And this is the primary dwelling, west. And this is the barbed wire on the property, which will need to be removed. Tierra Drive South, it's a dirt road. And Tierra Road Northeast. This is the property across the street.
Hello, Denny and Albert. I'm joining the meeting now, okay?
Thank you, Commissioner.
And I apologize for the petitioners and all the people in the gallery. There was a technical glitch that I encountered late yesterday afternoon, and haven't gotten the problem resolved, but I'm joining the meeting, and I apologize for this inconvenience. Thank you.
Thank you. For the record, that is Commissioner Mel Acosta online.
The applicable plans and policies and criteria for approval. Chapter 350 of the Unified Development Code, ordinance number 287, 2016. A special use permit is, we can hear a case for a special use permit. The cannabis establishments has nothing to do with this. It's a mistake. Notice for procedures for special use permits and decisional criteria for special use permits and the glossary. The zoning district, an accessory dwelling no larger than 1,250 square feet is required to get a special use permit on a D1L low-density residential zone. The glossary, the definition for an accessory dwelling, a separate complete unit with a separate entrance, kitchen, sleeping area, and full bathroom facilities, which is detached from the primary dwelling on the lot and shall not be used for the commercial sheltering or rental for individuals or families. The decisional criteria, traffic impacts are minimal. An additional 4 to 6 vehicle trips per day will not have a negative impact on traffic. Applicant wants an Airbnb for additional income. The applicant has a domestic well for the home and accessory dwelling. They transferred water rights to themselves from the prior owner at the Office of the State Engineer. Applicant has applied for a septic tank permit and will be required for building permit. There will be relatively little impact of the existing infrastructure. Tierra Road is a private unpaved dirt road. There has been no evidence submitted that there are endangered or rare species of animal and plant life in the area. There will not be any significant impact on surrounding properties. The property is surrounded by single-family residential and agricultural land. Applicant will implement best management practices that are identified, noted, and included in the review and conditions required for the SUP and during the building permit process. Staff findings. The property is outside of any incorporated municipal zoning or authority and is within Doña County. Therefore, the P&Z Commission has jurisdiction to hear this case. The administrative authority and duties of the Planning and Zoning Commission may reserve, hear, and make final determinations to approve with conditions or deny applications for variances and special use permits. Public notice requirements have been met. Decision criteria, the SUP is consistent with the health, safety, and general welfare of the residents of the county. The land use classification matrix, an accessory dwelling no larger than 1,250 square feet is required to get a special use permit. Pursuant to the UDC, the Zoning Administrator, Planning and Zoning Commission, and Board of County Commissioners may apply conditions to the special use permit in order to protect the public health, safety, and welfare. Pursuant to the definition of the accessory dwelling, a separate, complete, well, I've read this to you before, the definition of an accessory dwelling. Staff recommendations. Based on the findings of fact, staff analysis, and agency comments, staff recommends a conditional approval of case number SU 23017 for an accessory dwelling with conditions listed below. All existing structures and new construction will be required to meet all applicable construction, fire, and life safety codes. The owner must bring building up to code compliance with a building, electrical, plumbing, mechanical permit requirements and receive a certificate of occupancy, a triple fee for all required permits, building, electrical, plumbing, mechanical for construction without permits. The accessory dwelling cannot be used for commercial sheltering or rental for individuals or families. Barbed or razor wire shall be removed pursuant to 350-507R2D. Screening, wall, or fence, the use of barbed wire or razor fences are permitted in agricultural and industrial zone districts or uses except when adjacent to a residential zone, district, or use. This concludes my presentation.
Thank you very much, Charlene. Any
Mr. Chair,
questions from
can I ask a question of staff? Staff, can you return to the page that indicates the use for accessory dwelling just one more time and go over that? Allowable uses for accessory dwelling. I'm not sure that was the.
The accessory dwelling right there, the glossary.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Mr. Chair, I have a question. I noticed that the applicant, at some point in a narrative in here, they talked about using the facility as an Airbnb.
Yes,
And clearly, the definition of an accessory building does not allow that.
yes, we are aware of that.
Okay.
Do you want to address that, Janine?
So, yes, Mr. Chair and Commissioner Lear. So that's why staff is proposing that it not be used for commercial renting purposes, because it conflicts with the definition.
Okay, is the applicant aware of that?
Yes, they are.
Okay.
Based on the size of the lot, 1.67 acres, how many, what's the maximum amount of dwellings that can be allowed there or structures altogether?
He can have a primary dwelling, the home, and he can have an accessory dwelling with a special use permit.
And any of these other?
Yes, he
any of
can
these other
have a
structures are
garage.
also-
He
okay.
can have a garage and he can have a carport.
Does the accessory dwelling meet the septic requirements?
Yes,
Or is there a separate septic on the property?
well, that's why they had to go for a new septic permit. Because the septic, they go by the number of bedrooms.
Okay.
And so that, with the accessory dwelling, it probably exceeds that.
Okay. The notice of violations, have those been resolved?
No, we are in the process of working with them to get it resolved. They have a year to get it completed because the special use permit will expire in a year.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to ask a question if I could of the building official, if that's permitted.
Yes.
Oh, sorry.
Please state your name and address for the record.
Sean Vick, 845 North Motel Boulevard.
Do you affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth under penalty of law?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Sean, can you comment on the general cooperation of this particular candidate for this? I see a whole bunch of work without permits and so forth. Have they been generally cooperative once you contact them, or has it been a repeated process of sort of, doing stuff without permits?
Once they were notified, they were not cooperative. Trying to find different avenues to not have to permit the structures or to follow the administrative code. It wasn't until we started the zoning case, as well as the building case, with the authority to have to pull power in that aspect. They went to the state, went to the governor, commissioners, county manager and such, trying to get this overridden. Wasn't until they exhausted their last effort that I believe they realized that they had to finally go ahead and get this permitted. So that's where we're at today.
Do you anticipate further problems like that in this process?
No, sir, not with Mr. Avalos. Mr. Avalos, who's assisting the Jacksons with this process, he's met with me a couple times. He understands the issue. With him involved, I don't believe we're going to have any concerns. If he's not involved, there could be possible issues arising again.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
John, when you mentioned they went to the commissioners, did they actually address the BOCC, or were they just speaking individually with their commissioner?
Just with our commissioners, sir.
Thank you. Okay. I mean, it appears, and I'm going to be a little bit frank here, that this is, we've dealt with this case like this before, where an SUP was, or an applicant applies for an SUP because they were in violation, and it looks like that's what that's the type of the type of case that we're hearing today. Any other questions of staff before I ask for the applicant? Okay. This time we'll hear from the applicant. Thank you, Shirley.
Yes, sir.
Good morning.
I'm going to go and get you sworn in.
If you can please raise your right hand and state your name and address for the record.
Oh, I'm sorry. Edward Avalos,
Can you state your address for the record?
3200 Mesilla Hills, Las Cruces, New Mexico 88005.
Do you affirm the testimony you're about to give today is the truth under penalty of law?
Yes,
Thank you.
Thank you. Before you begin, is Mr. Jackson available as well?
they're here.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead. Just, kind of based on the timeline and the timeline and the structures, Mr. Avalos, you've got a little splaining to do. So the floor is yours.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, good morning. My name is Edward Avalos, as I stated. I'm a retired public servant, over 40 years as a public servant in New Mexico and in Washington, D.C. I'm also a retired general contractor, so I know a little bit about this issue. I am working pro bono as a representative for the Jacksons. Maybe to save time, we heard all this, okay? There are the recommendations made by the county. I just want to let you know that we concur with those recommendations, and I will work very hard with Sean Vick, Charlene Santisteban, and any other county officials so we could get them into compliance. That's our priority, is to get them into compliance. So anyway, having said that, I'll take any questions you might have.
Mr. Avalos, you say the recommendation made by the county. Can you be a little bit more specific? Were these recommendations prior
Yes.
to
Yes.
the violations, or?
Well, the recommendations are made, they were posted, they're in your document.
Mr. Chair, if I may, Mr. Avalos, can you please explain a little bit about your manner or whatever it was that made you decide that you could ignore building codes, permits and so forth?
I have never done that.
I'm sorry?
I have not done that. I came into this just less than 30 days ago
Oh, I
to
see.
help the Jacksons.
This is not your doing then, the work that was.
No.
That was done without permits. It was not you.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner, I was a general contractor for over 20 years,
Okay?
and I follow guidelines and permits, and I understand this very, very well.
Okay, I missed that part. My
And
apologies.
that's why I volunteer pro bono to help the Jacksons get through the process. And that's why after the meeting today, I am meeting with Mr. Vick to start the process for permitting.
Do you have any relationship with the prior owner then, or the prior?
I do not.
Okay, thank you.
So to be clear, your involvement in this case didn't happen until after the violations occurred.
Exactly.
Thank you. Okay.
So anyway, they're up on the board now. I will work with the Jacksons and of course with the county officials to come into compliance.
How will you satisfy the requirement for building, plumbing, mechanical, electrical if the house is already built? How will you do that?
Well, that's where, we have blueprints drawn up, everything according to what's required by the county. And that's why today I'm going to sit down with Mr. Vick to go over the blueprints and go over the requirements. And It's a good question, Mr. Chair, Commissioner, because I've never done this before. To come in after the fact is a challenge. But I think having the blueprints, going out to the property, seeing the construction, I think that we can get this done and get it done quickly. I feel very confident we can do that.
I have confidence in the building official to make sure it was done. I was just wondering if you were willing to do those things that he might have asked you. In other words, take drywall off or different things like that.
Well, we're willing to work with the inspectors if it's reasonable. We have to be reasonable. They've been in this house a long time. And I feel very confident working with Mr. Vick and his folks that we can get this done. I really do.
Very good, thank you.
Is the applicant wanting to speak today? Okay, so I want to rescind my comment about you having any splaining to do. It's actually you that has a little bit of splaining to do. But I do appreciate you willing to be so cooperative. I think there does need to be kind of a middleman, if you will, in this process.
Absolutely, and like I said, I'm a retired public servant, retired general contractor. I understand the procedures, the process. I understand the importance of regulations and permits. So, we'll get it done. We'll get this taken care of.
Thank you. Any other questions?
I guess one more question. I'll follow up a little bit on the question of the use of the accessory and realizing that it was not your original intent to let's turn it into an Airbnb. Is that your intent, or do you plan, or does the owner plan? Is that the ultimate intent, is to make it allowable for that, or?
The reason they built the accessory dwelling was for use as an Airbnb. And they weren't aware that it wasn't allowed by county statute. In fact, the staff were not aware until they brought it to our attention when they were working on this case. So, today, there are many, many accessory dwellings all over the county that are being used for Airbnb. But they're not aware that they're in violation, because this barely came to the attention of the county staff. So anyway, to get to I don't know what you're trying to ask. The Jacksons will not use the accessory dwelling as a rental until the regulation is changed.
Okay, very good. Thank you for that.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Jimenez.
Yeah. Understanding that, we do have a third party present, I still would like to revisit the question of why the property owner has consistently failed to follow building codes, pull the appropriate permits. Why are we where we are today? Why was there such resistance to move forward with following code? And why was there such an inference of reaching out to other elected officials to try to circumvent this process?
Mr. Avalos, do you want to answer that on your?
I couldn't answer that for you, Commissioner.
Well, I think it is an answer that we would need here today. It's definitely something that I would appreciate having an answer to.
I would once again ask the applicant if they would like to address that.
Let me answer for you. Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, the only answer that I could give you would be that not understanding the process of obtaining a permit, not having the economic ability to pay for the cost of permits, probably contributed to them not going through the legal process to get permits. And this is not single case or rare case. You know, having been in construction for over 20 years, I saw this throughout the county. A lot of low-income areas, a lot of economically challenged individuals do not pull permits. And this might have been the case here. But more importantly, because this is, like they say, it's water downstream. Now that they have me working with them, I will work with Mr. Vick and all the other government officials here to get them back into compliance and get things straight.
Commissioner Jimenez, any other questions?
No, sir, Mr. Chair, although I do appreciate the answer. I personally do not find it to be efficient. There's many people in the audience here today waiting, following the appropriate processes. And that is really all I have more to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, is it possible to ask the owner who has done this to testify or say something to us?
I've already asked the applicant twice
He's
and
already asked
chooses
twice.
not to.
Okay.
So I can't force him to.
Okay, very good, thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner?
I guess this really isn't a question, more of a statement. First of all, I completely believe, Mr. Avalos, that you are planning on working on this process with the staff. I have no doubt that you intend to do that. Given the history of this property and the lack of permitting and the resistance to permitting in the past, I'd be a lot more comfortable if these conditions were all met prior to this being approved. If the violations were corrected appropriately and the fees paid and the permits issued for those that have already been built, to me, that seems like that would be the starting point to go from there to approve to do something else.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner, I go along with that. I think that's what the staff is recommending. They're asking for conditional approval pending that we meet these.
Right, and I understand that. I'm just
And-
saying
and
that
we're- and
I'm a little uncomfortable even with a conditional approval, given the history and the fact that these have not been taken care of yet. It seems to me that it makes sense that we kind of clean the slate and get things up to date and everything before we go to the next step.
Excuse me, Commissioner Lear. The reason for the SUP today, sir, is for the building permit for the home that the Jacksons live in now and the carport to move forward. The SUP for the accessory dwelling needs to be approved on condition, and you could add that to your conditions. But speaking with Mr. Avalos, he is going to permit the dwelling, the carport, and the Airbnb accessory dwelling today if it is approved. That is the reason why we're here today, is I can't move forward with any other permits until this is approved. But it could be a part of your conditions.
Okay, thank you.
Sean, may I ask a question? Is it possible that any of these things could be done without a permit, I recognize, to fix those things that the commissioner was asking for? Is that a possibility? In other words, before we actually act on approval, because quite frankly, with the lack of cooperation of the witness or the applicant, I'm a little bit reluctant to vote for it unless I see some of these things, if I see compliance beginning to happen. That's my personal perception. But is it possible that they can fix these things legally or under your authority in some manner without a permit before we actually approve the request here?
No, sir, they would have to have a permit to stay in
Thank you.
compliance. Yes, sir.
Thank you. Another statement, rather than a question, is the applicant's narrative clearly states that he does still intend to use the property for an Airbnb and for short-term rentals. We're putting a condition here that the property is not to be used for any kind of rental at all. And with our inability to enforce that, to really enforce that condition, and given the inability to really enforce that condition and the prior occurrences, I just don't really have the faith, if you will, that the applicant is going to abide by that condition. And so we're, I mean, we're, you know, in some cases, we're approving this somewhat on an honor system as far as the Airbnb is concerned. I want to, just for some clarity purposes, there is not, I don't believe that we're in any kind of zone that is, that we're in any kind of zone right now that is, you know, that denies an Airbnb. If, or if there's a covenant, is there a covenant? What exactly is stopping the Airbnb from happening? to begin with?
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, yes. She posted the regulation that does not allow an Airbnb in the county.
In D1L, there's no Airbnbs allowed in D1L?
Not as accessory dwellings, Mr. Chair.
Accessory dwellings.
Accessory.
Okay, thank
That's
you.
the key, yes.
Okay, thank you very much.
So, Mr. Chair, Commissioners, when the Jacksons built the accessory dwelling, their intent was to put it on Airbnb as a rental. They weren't aware of the regulation that didn't allow an Airbnb or an accessory dwelling to be used as an Airbnb. They weren't aware of that. In fact, the county officials were not aware of that. Otherwise, they wouldn't have ever built the accessory dwelling.
Thank you. So, and at one point on February 22nd, when Mr. Jackson stated this was just a metal building, was that is that when the inquiry begun, or was that when the violation occurred?
I couldn't answer that.
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, on February 22nd, Mr. Jackson had a meeting at the county with myself and Priscilla Ramirez with Codes Enforcement. And that's at that time when this was addressed.
Okay.
There was another issue going on at the time, and so the Airbnb, well, I was aware of the Airbnb prior to the meeting on that date. However, we were trying to get some other things taken care of on a sole and separate project that the Jacksons were involved in. Once that was taken care of and finalized, that's when I decided to move forward with speaking to Mr. Jackson regarding the permitting of the structures.
Thank you. Thank you, Sean. Any other questions for Mr. Avalos?
Mr. Chair, not another question, but, you know, I would ask another plea of not the applicant, but the property owner. As I believe you can tell from my previous statements, I share the concerns of all my fellow commissioners regarding approving this here today based off of the history. And I would just like to make an additional plea to Mr. Jackson to come up and give us an explanation as to why there has been permits circumvented, not necessarily the Airbnb. I think we have answers to Airbnb. But I would still like to know why permits were willfully overlooked and not pulled. So not a question, just another plea for Mr. Jackson to come up and speak with us.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you. Yeah, let's go ahead and swear you in. sir.
2015, when I bought the property,
Mr.
morning.
Jackson, we're going to swear you in. Thank you.
Please state your name and address for the record.
Tim Jackson, 3860 Tierra Road, Fair Acres, New Mexico.
Do you affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth under penalty of law? Do you affirm the testimony you're about to give today is the truth under penalty of law?
Yes.
Thank you.
So in 2015, I bought the
A little
property.
closer to the mic, sir.
In 2015, I bought the property on 3860 Tierra Road. There's a partial dwelling there. We added on to it, built a house. You know, I don't have an explanation for not pulling permits. I should have done it. I didn't. I can't go back and fix what happened in 2015. All we can do is move forward. I've had the blueprints drawn, engineer stamps. Eder has the plans now. He's meeting with Sean Vick. What I did in 2015, we can't go back. All we can do is move forward.
Mr. Jackson, since 2015 and during the subsequent times that you've interacted with the building official, what has been your position on doing work without a permit to him?
I don't understand the question.
Why did you decide that you didn't need permits incrementally each time, one time after another?
Well, you know, I knew I needed permits, you know, but one thing just led to another. We're building. I live in an area where I have 4 adjoining neighbors. They all have built without permits. You know, I got shops being built around me. I got commercial business across the street, and nobody's pulled permits in the neighborhood. And yes, I should have, but I didn't.
Okay. Do you, in the future then, do you intend to consider rules, regulations, and anything that's necessary before you take an
Yes.
act like that?
Yes.
Okay. That's what I needed to hear. Thank you.
That all?
Just for the record, how were you made aware that your neighboring, your neighboring properties had not pulled permits?
What's that?
How are you aware that structures surrounding your property were not done with permits?
I know all my neighbors.
Okay. So this is just them telling you that they didn't pull permits?
There's 3, 4 houses all around my neighborhood, no permits have been pulled.
Okay.
There's a building going up next door to me, adding 60 feet to a shop. Concrete's there, trusses are there, our panel's there. He's not pulling no permits.
Thank you. Commissioner Jimenez, any other questions?
No, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Any other questions for Mr. Avalos? Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner, thank you very much.
Thank you. And we definitely appreciate your willingness to step in and
Absolutely.
and correct this to the best of your ability. Thank you very much. Okay. Commission input. Any?
Mr. Chair,
Sorry, Commissioner.
Mr. Chair. Let me remind the commissioners that the ruling on this is going to be on the special use permit, okay? And you heard the comment from the petitioner and Mr. Avalos doing pro bono. The statement that Sean made was correct. What we need to do is, and I beg to differ, there is a way to keep enforcement. That's why we have codes enforcement. In the event that we would apply strict conditions on the special use permit, known or unknown to the petitioner, I think that we can enforce that by codes enforcement and apply that to the actual motion when you make the motion. And so Sean can actually give us a better insight as to what needs to be done to come into compliance. If we make the petitioner come into compliance, surely people around there will be able to understand that even if they don't know the rules and regulations regarding accessory dwellings and whatever, they will be able to also come into compliance. So I believe that Sean is correct regarding we need to make sure that this petitioner will come into compliance, and Sean is an expert in doing his job regarding how the building is constructed and so forth. So the only recommendation that I would say is now on the accessory dwelling or the Airbnb, you can possibly disallow that. But for enforcement, codes enforcement can actually pay visits every so often and make sure that they're in compliance. And if they're not in compliance, then at that point in time, you do a stop work order completely. And maybe Sean can give us a recommendation as to what can and cannot be done. And so if Sean wants to give us an explanation on that, I'd be more than glad to hear his explanation on that.
Mr. Chair, oh,
Commissioner Acosta. In regard to while the building permits are still active, then compliance with all building codes. There may be some areas that have to be removed, looked at within each one of the dwellings for code compliance. My inspectors have already gone out and done a site visit, a courteous site visit. I believe in the narrative you saw some of the violations that they could just see visually without getting into removing any of the sheetrock, R-panel, things like that. If and when the dwellings are completed and we do have a certificate of occupancy of completion, if the building, the Airbnb is used for rental or the accessory dwelling, then we can do codes violation and have it cited. If they're possibly living in there and it's a violation of the conditions on the SUP, then under the building code, we do have the authority to pull power for an unsafe structure or an unsafe use, which we can do by giving notice in that aspect. So we do have some authority over the project even though after it's completed.
Mr. Chair, I think I'm prepared to make a motion.
Any further comment from the commission? Any further comment from staff?
Chair, just a quick comment. I don't know if you want to hear from the public? Any members
Yes,
of the
thank you
public?
very much. I apologize. Is there any public comment in support of this SUP? Okay. Any against?
Mr. Chair?
Just a second, Commissioner.
Mr. Chair?
Okay. Mel, just a second. It looks like it appears we have no public comment. Go ahead, sir. Go ahead, Commissioner.
I would like to make Sean's statement as part of the when we do vote as part of the motion, because it's very well stated, and so I like that. And so when the motion is made, I would like to make sure that that is part of the motion for voting on that particular project.
Thank you. Okay. This time the chair entertains the motion.
Mr. Chair, I think I'm prepared to make a motion. I'll make an attempt here. I move that we, for the purposes, or discussion purposes, approval of case SU 2317 for accessory dwelling with the conditions listed below under staff recommendations. In addition to that, I'd like to add a condition that indicates that the statement by the building official, Sean Vick, be included in the staff recommendations to sort of clarify the intent that we support the need for compliance with building codes.
So, Commissioner?
Commissioner, go ahead.
And that's actually the condition of denial on the actual Airbnb, right? Is that correct?
I believe it restricts any rental at all.
It says to use for commercial sheltering or rental for
All right.
individuals or families. Yes, sir.
All right, that sounds good.
Thank you. Okay. Do you have a motion? Do I have a second?
I'll second the motion.
Okay. All right, we got a motion and a second by Commissioner Lear. Any further comment?
Mr. Chairman, the comment I'll make, I was leaning toward opposing this approval request. However, I think I heard enough from the owner, Mr. Jackson, to indicate that he seems to be interested in sort of compliance generally, and I believe that's an appropriate gesture on his behalf, so I would be in favor of the motion.
All right, if there's no additional comment. All right, Eileen, would you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Underwood,
Yes.
Commissioner Lear,
Yes.
Commissioner Jimenez,
Yes.
Commissioner Acosta,
Yes.
Chair Montañez.
A very reluctant yes. Thank you.
you.
Special use permit is approved. Thank you all very much. Thank you for testimony. Thank you again, Mr. Avalos. All right, at this time, we'll move on to case number Z 23-011. Albert, do you have the floor? You have the floor.
Good morning. Please state your name and address for the record.
Albert Casillas, 845 North Motel Boulevard.
Do you affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth under penalty of law?
I do.
Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners. Our second case today, it's going to be a zone change request. The property owner is Wallace Holdings LLC, and Rodney Parrott, PE, is the applicant. This property is located southwest of Berino on Highway 478. The zoning is T3 right now. It's a 1.45 acre parcel. Current zoning is T3, and they're applying for a C2, which is a community commercial zoning district. And this is in order to allow a Dollar General store. When we look at the location map, that's basically the intersection of Berino Road and Highway 478. The town of Berino is going to be somewhere in this vicinity over here. And this is the subject parcel. And then just a close-up of the property. That's an existing 3,000 square foot building that's there on the 1.45 acre parcel.
Is that a commercial building?
It is a commercial building, but I'll be talking about the, the zoning and the, the current uses of it right now. There's a little bit of history to this parcel. That's the zoning map right here. You can kind of see the edge of the Berino town side. That's East Berino Road. On that intersection, there's a couple of buildings out here. For some reason, the zoning there at that intersection is DM for mobile home parks, even though there's not a mobile home park there. But everything else, it's going to be T3. The green out here, it's all T2. But the current zoning right here, it's a T3 zone. So before the EDC, the zoning was performance district. From there, somewhere, along 1998, when it was still zoned performance district, back then we had these non-residential applications out in the county. So basically, if you had a PD zone, you wanted to do something commercial, something industrial, depending on the intensity and the scale of it, you were able to do it administratively. All you had to do was just, hire an engineer to provide us with the engineered site plan, showing pretty much, your grading, your ponding, parking areas and all that stuff. And then it went through an administrative review, and if, everything checked out, then you pretty much had your non-residential designation. In this case, in 1998, they got that approval for a 3,000 square foot commercial building that was going to be used as an upholstery shop. And then, of course, the UDC got enacted, and it was still issued a T3 designation. Another case that happened recently in 2019 was that we had a request from New Mexico Solar Group. Mr. Donahue was the agent or the applicant for them, and originally, they had requested a zone change as well. But when they came to the Planning and Zoning Commission, the request was basically downgraded for a special use permit. So they didn't officially give this property a commercial designation. They ended up just having an overlay zone for a special use permit. And of course, we know that whenever somebody gets a special use permit, it's just for that specific use. So you're allowing them to operate a commercial operation, but the property itself, it's not commercial. In this case, they wanted to have their offices there, and they wanted to have basically a contractor's yard for further cars and storage material. So, just going back, just a little bit of the history. In 1998, they got the approval for that non-residential, and even still in 2019, we were still hearing requests for commercial uses. Between those two dates, there's been numerous other operations out of that building. Retail, I think at one point during the pecan harvesting season, somebody would set up shop there to take in people who are bringing in their pecans for sale. But those are just some of the examples of what have occurred on that property throughout the years. Here's a site plan of what's being proposed. Of course, here on the front, we see Highway 478. The building itself, it's going to be a little bit more over than 12,000 square feet, but this is the general layout that they're proposing right now. And like I stated before, this is just a conceptual drawing. So they'll have one main entrance, parking areas, there's going to be some landscaping, and that's going to be the main building right here. And here we kind of just get a conceptual view of what the building's going to look like. This is just another aerial photo, kind of zooming out a little bit from the property. We can kind of see that towards the north of it, there's going to be, some residential dwellings, but everything else around it, it's pretty much ag. Across the street, we have the BNSF railroad, and then some agricultural buildings over here. This is the subject parcel. I mean, the building's there, it's fenced in. This is where New Mexico Solar had originally proposed to be in. Right now, the property is for sale. There's a big old for sale sign right here.
So that was New Mexico Solar. Did they occupy that at all?
If they did, they were probably just there briefly.
Really? They decided to paint it before they occupied it. About how many zone changes would you say this has been through now?
Officially, just one, the one in 2019. Before, the way we would approach it was, if it was something similar to what had been there before, we would just go ahead and acknowledge that.
And so the parcel will include this building and this building and the Dollar General, or are they planning on removing that?
From the looks of it, they're probably going to demolish this building right here. There's not enough room to accommodate both structures.
Thank you.
And that's just another view of the parcel right here. Right here, I'm standing on the south eastern corner. Western corner, sorry. And that's just a close-up of the property right there. This is the front of the existing building. Highway 478, we got the BNSF Railroad over here to the left. Here's another picture. This is to the south of the property. It's just currently being used for ag. This is immediately north. These are just some of the residences that are next to the subject parcel. And up the road, I would say probably less than 1,000 feet. We have the Berino Mini Mart that's out there. It's a retail store. They got some gas pumps out there. When we're looking at the evaluation requirements, these are the applicable sections of the code that apply to zone changes. For notification, we sent out 12 letters. Really, there was really no correspondence received either in opposition or in favor of the request. That's one of the signs that was posted on the property, and those were the properties that were notified. So when looking at the decisional criteria, they're not proposing any additional homes. It's going to be for a commercial use. There's really not going to be any impact to demographics. No large impacts to traffic flows is anticipated. Access will be from Highway 478, which is a DOT maintained right-of-way. New Mexico DOT will require an access permit from the applicant, so they would have to coordinate with the District 1. The zone change will allow the proposed Dollar General to serve the local community by providing access to affordable products for customers, creating additional jobs and generation of additional tax revenues. Water is going to be provided by Lower Rio Grande. They're going to install a septic tank to handle wastewater. There is sufficient infrastructure capacity for the proposed use. No evidence of any endangered or rare species of animal and plant life in the area. Property is surrounded by residential and ag development. The impact of the proposed use will be minimal. When we look at if it gets approved, then it has to submit for a building permit. Buffer landscaping will be provided as required by the code. Also, applicant will implement best management practices that are identified, noted, and included in the reviews and conditions required for the zone change and during the building permit application. When we look at the comp plan, we don't believe that this request will be in conflict with the comp plan. It's going to, the zone change complements surrounding commercial and residential uses, and meets the following goals and actions of the comprehensive plan. You know, these are all included on your analysis, but basically goal G 2.2 ensures that regulations support the plan requirements. Doña County is revising its zoning and other ordinances into a unified development code. This code should address a number of issues, you know, safeguarding and extending desirable neighborhood character, developing existing locations with existing infrastructure, and extend as necessary. Supporting small-scale businesses, including ag, keeping money from leaking out of the county, plug the leaks in sales and services, protecting and enhancing the county markets for goods and services. These are some of the goals that are identified in the comprehensive plan. The Miller criteria, when looking at the Miller criteria, you know, we got to look at a sufficient change of conditions. You know, like I said it before, you know, this property, even though it's zone T3, it's been subject to many multiple commercial operations. More recently, you know, this zone change request, they got converted over to a special use permit in 2019 for the operation of a solar group. The Berino Mini Mart, it's, you know, located less than 1,500 feet to the north of the subject parcel. I tried to look up traffic data from TechStop, but they only had data for 2017, so I really couldn't make a comparison on that. But that's the only data that was available for this area. The property currently does have a 3,000 square foot building. If the zone change is approved, it's probably going to get demolished. And this building was approved back in '98 via that non-residential application. During the land use designation mapping phase of the UDC, you know, it got a designation of T3, and that was for transit zoning. However, you know, this use zone, even though it was applied to this property, the most appropriate probably would have been a C1 designation as a minimum, you know, just looking at the history for this parcel. C1 wouldn't allow a retail building of this size. So even though if they would have gotten the C1 designation, they still would have required a C2 zone change in order to accommodate the 12,480 square foot retail building. If denied, the applicant can still use the property as allowed under a T3 zoning. We don't think the zone change is considered a spot zoning. Stated before, you know, just looking at the historical commercial retail uses that have been, you know, that have occupied the premises, you know, since the approval of that non-residential application. We don't think that the C2 will be in disharmony, and it will be a benefit to the community by increasing the availability of commercial-related services. I mean, I'm not going to go through all the uses out here, but these are just the allowed uses under a T3 zone versus a C2 zone, but those uses are included in your packet.
There wouldn't be this type of commercial in a neighborhood edge, would there, in a T3?
In a T3, no. On a T3, you can have some retail uses, but they would have to apply at a minimum for a special use permit, but they would be capped on the square footage.
Thank you.
Our staff findings, you know, they're included in your packet, but we're basically stating that the request does meet the decisional criteria for a zone change. We don't think that the C2 would be considered a spot zoning for the reasons stated, you know, before, and we don't think it's going to be in significant conflict with the comprehensive plan as well. So, based on the findings of fact on our analysis and agency comments, we are recommending conditional approval of this request. Condition number 1 being that no development shall occur within the 30-foot road and utility easement depicted on the site plan, and at the time of a building permit approval, the applicant shall provide the appropriate buffer and landscaping standards as required by the UDC. And this is basically just to buffer, you know, this property from the surrounding residential uses. So that's the end of our presentation, and we stand for questions, and the applicant is here as well.
There was no, I mean, just set as there was no need for any kind of deceleration strategies or lanes or anything like that?
All that's going to be determined by the New Mexico DOT.
Okay.
His comment was, of course, that additional studies might be required when looking at the driveway permit.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Any
Mr. Chair,
questions, staff? Go ahead.
you know, I realized that the staff has looked at this and said that you would not consider this spot zoning. And I see the rationale for that and everything, but when I look at the zoning map, if I was going to try to explain to somebody what spot zoning was, I would use that as an example. Because it's clearly there's nothing like that zoned in that area that in any direction within a reasonable distance. It's just real hard for me to, I guess my question is, if this isn't spot zoning, what is?
The way staff was looking at it, I mean, if this would have just been a vacant parcel, then it would probably, it probably wouldn't have staff support. But once again, we're looking at the history of this parcel. We know that within 500 feet that there's another retail location that's probably still, grandfathered in because of their T3 zoning. But, looking at the history, knowing that it's been there since at least, 1998 and, in some, commercial capacity, the staff doesn't feel that it would be called a spot zoning. I mean, it might not have the appropriate color to it, when you're looking at the zoning map, but the use itself right there, I mean, it's commercial. The property has been commercial for at least, 20 years. That's where staff is coming from.
So we're basically using prior use as the reason to change zoning.
Prior use, when we look at the Miller criteria, it's not just a change of conditions. One of the other criteria there, it's whether there was a mistake, on the zoning map. So that's another way of looking at it, is that this property from, since the adoption of the UDC, T3 was probably not the best designation for it. So when you're looking at Miller, you're looking at two things. One, has there been a change of conditions out there? And two, was there a mistake on the, on the ordinance or the zoning map?
Okay, thank you.
Albert, do you see going back to this solar, New Mexico solar, would it have had the same, in your opinion, this is just an opinion, would it have the same traffic impact as this new zoning, if approved, would? Because it did seem like a pretty big operation.
I don't recall the specifics of that case or whether or not they actually even submitted an STA or traffic impact analysis. But from what I recall, they weren't just going to use that office. It was also going to be a contractor's yard for other operators. Whether or not it would have had more of an impact, I couldn't make that, I couldn't answer that right now.
Thank you. I do share Commissioner Lear's concern with the potential spot zoning, but I also have a concern on traffic impact. However, I do understand with a lot of, especially Dollar General, sometimes they're in some random areas that are going to have a traffic impact regardless. So, thank you.
Albert, was there a reason under staff recommendations you didn't, I see sort of you retroactively said it about a building permit when it's at that approval, but you didn't make a condition that the building renovation would require a building permit. Is there a reason for that?
Commissioner, so just to clarify, they're not going to be remodeling this building. They're going to be tearing it down and building a whole new structure.
Wait, say that again?
The existing building that's there, it's going to be torn down.
It is going to be torn,
yeah,
so there will be a new building permit later on.
There's going to be a new building permit. So it is going to be a requirement anyway, so I just didn't feel the need of putting it on there because it is a requirement already.
Okay, I follow.
The only condition on there was just to make sure that during that building permitting phase that they comply with the landscaping requirements.
Thank you very much.
Any other questions from the commission? Thank you. This time we'll hear from the applicant.
Good morning. Please state your name and address for the record.
Wade Jackson, 6100 Uptown Boulevard Northeast, Suite 400, Albuquerque.
Do you affirm the testimony you're about to give today is the truth under penalty of law?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
A lot of Jacksons today.
That's right.
I'm going to assume you're not related.
We are not related, for the record. I was cringing a little bit when.
Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for the opportunity. I don't have a lot to add. I appreciate Mr. Casillas' comments. I just, reiterate that 9 of the 10 203D factors are not in play here. The only one that is, staff made the comment that this is not in conflict with the comp plan. I think it's actually perfectly consistent, at least with the economic portion, the economic goals of the comp plan. Going to create jobs, going to stop the leakage of tax revenues across the border and provide an opportunity for these folks to shop close to home, to address the traffic concerns. First and foremost, the DOT is going to address that. If there are traffic issues, I think they'll be addressed, but the zone change that we're seeking here is designed for this type of use. This is, it's not a Walmart supercenter. This is designed to, provide a service to this particular community, allow these folks to shop closer to home, and the traffic impact is according to staff, not going to be a factor. So I'm happy to answer any questions, but would ask for your approval today.
I have no. I remember in the last case, there was a concern because there was one. There was already one, not too far, even though it was on the Texas border or on the other side. How far from another one would this location be?
I guess I don't have the closest location, but there is not one nearby. The mini mart, as Mr. Casillas noted, is
That's the other retail option.
That's the other. That is very close, and it's a different type of a gas station sort of quick stop as opposed to household goods.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I recall in the last case that I was upset with you for putting the Dollar General right next to my house, and I just wanted to clarify that it wasn't you, but I had to blame you for that. But I also just wanted to, I'm still upset with you for that. But thank you very much. Thank you for testimony today.
Mr. Chair, I have a quick question.
Commissioner.
It's regarding the former case before us that the applicant was before us on. I just have a question on what's the distance between the one that he was here previously for and the one that is being proposed today?
That was a little closer to the San Miguel area, was it not? Or Highway 28?
It was down south.
Yes.
It was right on that intersection, right? 28?
It is a considerable distance.
Okay. That was all.
Thank you. Okay, any other questions from the commission? All right, at this time, we'll call to the public. Is there anybody here to speak in favor of this case? Is there anybody in opposition? Okay, going once, going twice. All right, we are past public input. Any other comments from staff? Okay, okay. This time, the chair calls for a motion.
Mr. Chair, I'll make the motion. Based on the findings, facts, staff analysis, and staff recommendation for a conditional approval of case Z23-011, a zone change on a 1.545 acre parcel from T3 to C2 with the following conditions: that no development shall occur within 30 feet within the 30-foot road and utility easement depicted on the site plan, and at the time of the building permit approval, the applicant will provide the appropriate buffer and landscaping standards as directed by the UDC.
I second that motion.
Okay. All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further comment, commissioners? Commissioners online?
Well, we're just voting on the actual zone change, so we can talk about a lot of things, but on conditions that I don't think we need to name the conditions, just conditional approval until they meet DOT guidelines and acceleration lane, deceleration lanes, and so forth. And by the way, this is not a spot zone. Clearly, Albert is correct on that one. And that's my statement.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner. All right, if there's no any other comment, Eileen, would you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Acosta,
Yes.
Commissioner Jimenez,
Yes.
Commissioner Lear,
Based on the fact of the staff findings under number 11, they specifically state that spot zoning is prohibited. It is my belief that this is spot zoning, and so I'm going to vote no.
Commissioner Underwood,
Yes.
Chair Montañez.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our SUP has been approved. Thank you all very much. Everybody good to move? Okay, we will now move on to case number Z23-010. Charlene, you have the floor.
Hello again. So we're here with the agenda item number 5C, and it's for a zone change, Z23-010.
Good morning. Please state your name and address for the record.
845 North Motel Boulevard, Las Cruces, New Mexico.
Can you state your name, please?
Charlene Santisteban.
Do you affirm that the testimony you're about to give today is the truth under penalty of law?
Yes.
Thank you.
The owner applicant is Jose Luis and Elizabeth Corona. They're the owners. The location is 799 Sales Road, La Mesa, New Mexico. The zoning is T2 rural. It's for a zone change from a T2 to a T3 neighborhood edge on a 5.43 acre parcel for a 5-lot summary subdivision. This is the location map. An aerial, a close-up of the property. The applicant is requesting a zone change on a 5.34 acre parcel from T2 to T3 to increase the density from 2 acre lot minimum size to a 1 acre lot size to be compatible with contiguous properties to the east and south. Currently, the T2 zone only allows 2 acre lots. The T3 zone allows 6,000 square foot lots with sewer. However, the property has no public sewer available and a septic tank will be required. They need a minimum of 3/4 acres for that by the State Environmental Department. Water provided by domestic well will need a permit from the Office of the State Engineer. The zoning map. This is the surrounding land uses. And this is the subject property looking east. This is Sales Road. It's county maintained, and this portion of Sales Road is dirt. It's about a 1/4 mile from the paved section of Sales Road. And this is Sales Road west. And this is a site-built single-family home east. It's on the east property line. The duties of the Planning and Zoning Commission have authority to hear this case, the general notice requirements, zone changes, and decisional criteria. 12 letters of notification were mailed to the property owners within a 300-foot buffer area on June 30th, 2023. Legal ads were placed in the Las Cruces Sun News July 2nd, 2023. Signs were posted on the property in a timely manner. Agenda posted on the DAC website. One telephone call of opposition was received from Martha Sales stating the road does not accommodate traffic and utilities are not available. And these are the notification signs. And this is the area of notification. The decisional criteria, there's a potential for 5 new homes. The population, potential increase in population could be 10 persons or more. Change of demographics is minimal. The impact of traffic could increase slightly with a minimal of a standard of 10 trips per day per household. The need for commercial and residential, the zone change will allow the property to develop and subdivide as a single-family residential, which will be compatible with the surrounding land uses. Domestic wells will need to be installed for water, and septic tanks are needed for sewer. Sales Road is a 40-foot right-of-way county-maintained road that ends approximately 0.5 miles, about half a mile before the proposed site from the pavement, the paved area. Access to the property is on a portion of Sales Road is maintained by the county. There's no significant environmental or historical significance in the area that we know of. The impact of the proposed zone on the surrounding properties, the surrounding area is mainly agricultural and single-family site-built homes. There will be a minimal impact to surrounding properties compatible with properties to the east. The applicant states they will comply with building and development codes. The cost of the land and land speculation is not a consideration for this zone change. The applicant is requesting a zone change for a higher density use that still provides a homogeneous single-family residential 1 acre or more lot size, and it complements the surrounding land use. The area is rural in nature and surrounding agricultural land uses. The comprehensive plan, it's in compliance with the G2.2 ensure regulations support the plan requirements, safeguard and extend desirable neighborhood character, develop in existing locations with existing infrastructure, and extend as necessary. Update codes to provide tools to support an appropriate physical structure, preserve the existing neighborhood character by tailoring the zones to match it and by blending extensions, communities, and neighborhoods. Zone for the create incentives for development within the existing neighborhoods and communities and as extensions to those communities. The Miller criteria, it doesn't fit A or B. It fits C. The requested zone change is not in conflict with the comprehensive plan or other adopted plans. The T2 zoning allows a higher density residential use while protecting the subject properties to develop in a rural atmosphere and complements surrounding residential land uses. Failure to change the zone district could deprive the owner of some economic, feasible, and similar use of the property to existing surrounding compatible development. The proposed zone change does not require capital expenditures by the county department. The proposed zone change is not dependent on a collector or a major thoroughfare. Sales Road is a 40-foot right-of-way county paved road that extends approximately 0.5 miles before the proposed site, which is a dirt road. The strip zoning is not applicable to this request for zone change. The zone change is not considered spot zoning. There is compatible T3 zoning contiguous to the property to support the zone change. The findings, the property is outside any incorporated municipal zoning authority, is within Doña County, and the Planning Zoning Commission has jurisdiction to review this case. The request of the application is consistent with the requirements of the UDC, general notice requirements, and zone changes. The zone change request for a residential zoning district does satisfy 350-203D. Decision criteria for a zone change is that the zone change is appropriate and reasonably necessary to protect the public interest, as this mainly consists of agricultural use and a mix of single-family site-built homes. The zone change is appropriate as there are existing residential and agricultural land uses contiguous and in the surrounding area is reasonably necessary to protect the public interest. The zone change to a T3 zoning district would not be considered spot zoning as a proposed zone change is contiguous to T3 zone to the east and south of the proposed site. The surrounding uses and areas, the size of the development is appropriate, and there will be a benefit to the community by allowing expansion of a residential use. The zone change will not be in significant conflict with the comprehensive plan. Staff recommendations. Based on the findings of fact, staff analysis, and agency comments, staff recommends approval of case Z23010, a zone change from T2 rural to T3 neighborhood edge to allow a higher density residential zoning district to allow smaller lot sizes. This concludes my presentation.
Thank you. Any questions for Charlene? Any questions for staff? Okay. Okay, this time we'll hear from the applicant if their last name is Jackson.
No. Their last name is Corona.
Good morning. Please state your name and address for the record.
Elizabeth Corona, it's 13807 Montes Road, La Mesa, New Mexico, 88044.
Do you affirm that the testimony you're about to give today is the truth under penalty of law?
Yes.
Mr. Corona, will you be speaking as well?
No, very well.
No, he won't.
Okay, thank you.
I understand, but
Good morning.
Good morning. Go ahead.
So this is what we were wanting to have if it was allowed, to change the property to a T3, so we could have more spaces. Since we wanted to sell it, we had bought it initially to go ahead and grow hay, but due to the fact that EBID is very low on water, it's gonna be really unuseful for that. So that's why we're asking permission to do a T3, so we could have enough to sell 8 per acre instead of a 2 acre.
Okay. Definitely some, they're all very good sized lots here. Any questions?
One, if I can, for the applicant. Is this, do you intend to sell the lots or build houses after your subdivision? Are you doing subdivision?
It's just a subdivision, and then
Okay.
whoever buys the lot will decide if they build or buy a mobile home.
So you plan to either build houses or put mobile homes on and then sell them as a package deal, or what?
No, sir.
Oh,
Sell the lot.
just lots
Just
themselves?
the lot, sir.
Okay, all right, thank you, I understand.
Any further questions from the commission? Okay. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
thank you.
You, Mr. and Ms. Corona. All right, at this time, I'll call for any public input. Is there anybody here to speak in favor?
Commissioner Montañez, I have a list.
Oh, you do? Okay. Let's go ahead and,
Andrew Jones.
Good morning.
Good morning. Please raise your right hand and state your name and address for the record.
Andrew Jones, 690 Sales Road.
Do you affirm the testimony you're about to give today is the truth under penalty of law?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
So I'm a resident of Sales Road, and I think there's a bunch of the neighborhood that's here behind us, but the kind of the traffic and the utilities and kind of the stuff that's out there right now, I don't think it'll fit subdividing this 5-acre piece into 1-acre piece lots. I know they bought it for farmland, and we'd like to keep it like that, kind of out there right now. But yeah, we are not for this happening.
are the lot sizes, proposed lot sizes consistent with the rest of the neighborhood on sales, or the rest of developments on sales?
Yeah.
So they're all minimum about 1 acre?
Yeah, there's, most of them are bigger than that, but down Stallion, which I think has been 1-acre lots for long before my time, but I think those are the only other ones that are 1-acre lots that are existing.
Thank you.
Another thing too, with having each septic tank, each well, all the stuff that's happening on each 1-acre lot, kind of hinders the water table, just like they mentioned. Water is kind of a scarce thing happening right now, so we'd like to keep it agriculture if we could. Another thing I think they mentioned is having mobile homes out there. The biggest thing we're kind of after is not having, people have park trucks and junks and, you know, stuff that kind of happens when we have the manufactured homes, kind of come into those 1 acre lots there, so. Yeah. Anybody have any questions for me?
All right, so are you saying the majority or all of the dwellings, surrounding dwellings are all site-built, no mobile homes?
Yeah, there's, the property that's, I don't know if the Lazarines are here, but, the properties due east of where that, 5 acres is right now. Those are 3 mobile homes there. We have another site-built home that's next to that, and then another mobile home that's, kind of directly across the street from me right there. But yeah, there's kind of few and far between. Most of them are site-built homes.
All right, thank you.
Any questions, comments?
I don't believe so. Thank you very much.
Daniel McWilliams. Good morning. Please
morning.
state your name and address for the record.
Daniel McWilliams, 258 Stallion Road, La Mesa, 88044.
Do you affirm the testimony you're about to give today is the truth under penalty of
Yes,
law?
ma'am.
Thank you.
Listen, that 5 acres has been empty for a long time. It was a cotton field for the longest time. And now they're, if they're gonna do that, they're gonna have to do it right. They can't go in there and potpourri and just with a bunch of old trailer houses and no fencing. If you'll notice on that east side, that's all fenced all down through there. I've got 63 feet of my property button up there. I don't want to share my fence with those people. Now, across Snow Road, just north of us, they built a community there. They rock walled that whole community and had site-built homes, and it's a real nice place. I don't think we need a potpourri of just junk down there below us. There's no restrictions that I can see. They're not requiring any fencing around any of that property. EBID water, you can't get water down there. That ditch is plugged up. Stallion Road runs north and south, and it butts into Sales Road. And that's all tree lined right now. We can't even hardly see to get out in that road. With that much more traffic, that's just gonna make it that much worse. And if they're gonna do that, I think there's gotta be a lot of restrictions on them. That's all I got to say.
Thank you.
Stacy Contreras. Good morning. Please state your name and address for the record.
Stacy Contreras, 1060 Sales Road, La Mesa, New Mexico, 88044.
Do you affirm the testimony you're about to give today is the truth under penalty of law?
Yes.
Thank you.
We live at 1060 Sales Road, which is west of this property. And we just feel like it'll negatively, all the increased traffic will negatively impact us. As of now, the people use that road as access to the river levee. We've asked for dead-end signs. We've asked for a road closed sign at the end. The traffic speeds through there. It kicks up dust. It causes ruts in the roads. And we're concerned about not having a well and how it will negatively impact all of us around us. Each 5 more residences putting a well. And we're on the agreement of not having the mobile homes or some restrictions as to what is allowed there if this passes. That's all I'd like to state. Thank you.
I have a question for staff before the next commenter. On the access would be from Sales Road and then also along this ditch line to those properties. Am I correct?
Yes, Sales Road goes,
So
it goes straight.
that's an easement right there that they'd be able to access property, anybody who purchases?
They would access through Sales Road.
Okay,
And there are nice homes around there,
yes,
site built.
thank you. Okay, next.
Robert Contreras. Good morning. Please state your name and address for the record.
Robert Contreras, 1060 Sales Road.
Do you affirm the testimony you're about to give today is the truth under penalty of law?
I do.
Thank you.
Hello, Commissioners. I live at 1060 Sales Road, and I have the same concerns as all these neighbors here do. We do live on a dirt road. I've contacted the county to try to address something, maybe get it paved. They do come and maintenance it. Like you said, it's a county maintenance road. We might get maintenance maybe, if we're lucky, once every 2 months. The road is really rutted out by the time they come back. The county, all they did for us was put a dead end sign and a stop sign at the beginning of Sales Road and Abbey Road. That's all they did for us. When they do come and grade it, we've complained, we've called the county, and they say that water is out of the question. They kind of laugh at me. I'm a contractor. We're not allowed to even move dirt without having a water truck on site. I suffer from asthma. I'm sure a lot of my neighbors do too. We get one car that, excuse my language, hauls the butt through there. I mean, the dust stays there in the air for 15 minutes. We're out there trying to work on our yards. Just these, 5 more tenants there, the wells, the dust, it's just gonna be a problem, We need some pavement, or we need some kind of a gate at the end of this road, because a lot of people do use this road as a gateway to the river, which is also not allowed to be at the river, but they don't pay no attention to the signage that they put out there, the county. So it is a big issue, and we have a lot of concerns for more traffic being on our road, our dirt road. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. I didn't know until today we had an Abbey Road in our county. That's really cool. Next.
I have nobody else unless somebody came in after the fact.
Do we have any other, okay. Yes, ma'am. I have to approach the mic, get sworn in.
Good morning.
Can I get your name?
Please state your name and address for the record.
Gamboa, 650 Sales Road. I have a fear of public speaking. Sorry, guys.
Do you
Okay.
affirm the testimony you're about to give today is the truth under penalty of law? Thank you.
Yes, I do. So my question is this. So they want to split this up into 5 1-acre lots?
Yes.
And according to that lot, those are going to be domestic wells that would be put in there? For each lot, correct? Correct?
I believe so.
All right. So with a 1-acre lot, and you have, say you put in a nice home, whatever you put in, whatever you decide to put in, and you decide to water, you put a garden, you put in lawn, whatever you put in, you still water from a domestic well, correct? You would, on your property. It wouldn't be an irrigation well. What's the other well? Correct? So most people probably wouldn't do that because there would be a cost, right? I'm just worried about this becoming Tobacco Road because people they're not gonna find the need to water, to take care of their yards, and it's gonna look like Tobacco Road. It's gonna be bad enough if we have mobile homes, and it's just like you and your home. You built a nice home, and here comes General Dollar. We don't want that happening to our area. And the traffic, like that gentleman said, it is terrible. I mean, we have kids that are out there trying to teach them how to ride a bike, and we can't do it because people are speeding down the roads. So I just want to let you aware that those of us homeowners that built homes and then mobile homes come in, what happens to our property values? It does them good, but it sure isn't going to do us any good. So that's my concern.
I just want to clarify that this application is for a zone change to allow the process to begin subdividing the lots. the applicants are not held to what is going to go on the property as far as homes, mobile homes. I just wanted to issue that clarity that that is not the applicant's intent. This is just for the subdivision. Depending on who purchases the lots, that would be their intent. I just want to state that for the record.
Mr. Chair?
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I'm going to have to ask you to sit for a second.
Yeah, just to add to your comment.
I'm sorry. I'm going to have to ask you to sit for just a second. We'll call you back here in a bit. Commissioner?
Mr. Chair?
Go ahead.
Mr. Chair?
Go ahead, Mel.
This is what I would issue to the commissioners there and the general public, okay? We're here to address a zone change only. Now, the other issues that they brought up are very good issues, and so we have to lay those aside because the issue at hand is a zone change. And I understand that there's a lot of concerns from the adjoining people that are there, and we as commissioners understand that very, very well. Now, when it deals with the issue of the safety and general welfare of the public, okay, now that's a real concern for me and the rest of the commissioners and the county. Now, one issue of concern for me and for the rest of the commissioners and the gallery is that we have septic tanks there. We have not had adjudication of the water from to the south of the Elephant Butte Lake. There's not adjudication of anything there as of yet. Now, when you have X number of septic tanks and contamination of probability of water in their wells, to me, that's a safety concern. And so these issues have to be taken into consideration for a zone change. Now, the question I have is if you do this to this property, okay, to downsize to a 1 acre parcel, the adjacent area, I believe, is all Ag 1. And so if we do this to this parcel, right, we certainly cannot not take into consideration the adjacent properties that are there. And if it's a matter of issue of money and selling a property, especially if people don't live there, that's quite an easy thing because, you know, you take the money and run and let everybody else stay with it. But for my concern is the safety and general welfare of the public regarding contamination of water for water wells. And so this is one of the issues that all of us should take into consideration. And so denial of this is not out of the question, only for that purpose only. And that's my statement.
Thank you, Commissioner. Eileen, next. Okay. Okay, I'll go ahead and allow the gentleman to comment.
Well, just to comment on what you guys had said earlier, she did state mobile homes. I know this is just for to cut the pie, basically, you're right, but she did state that, you know, single family homes or mobile
Understood.
homes. So, I mean, I know that's not being covered here today, but let's all be honest, we all know what's gonna happen if this does pass, right? So this is like step number one for everything else to kind of fall in place. So.
Understood. Thank you. Okay.
Mr. Chair, I have a question for staff,
Mr. Chair,
if I can.
or, Commissioner,
Staff, reading in the findings, I believe, the issues of water supply and septic tank were addressed as required by the state.
They're required by the state. They have to get permits from the state.
But they would meet the requirement even down to 1 acre lots, is that correct?
That's determined by the state. I
Okay.
don't know, but there is a concern with the septic tanks being near a water well. There has to be a certain distance, and I don't know what that requires.
That would end up limiting the number of bedrooms in each house.
Yes.
For the size of septic tank.
Yes.
And therefore limiting the size of the dwelling itself.
Right.
But by the septic tank. And the water supply is indicated here as Rio Grande, but does that include a private well?
No, it has to be a domestic well if they're going to be using the water for their home. I know that Mrs. Sales that called, she said they had to have a new well built and they had to go deeper, which was a lot more expensive. And I know wells are not cheap. They're expensive, and so are the septic tanks required for this property.
Thank you very much, staff.
Thank you. Any other commission input? Sir? Okay, you like to comment? Okay.
Willie Joe Koenig. I own the pecan farm just north of this applicant here.
Do you affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth under penalty of law?
Yes,
Can you state your name again?
Willie Joe Koenig.
Thank you.
And we've got all the farmland around there.
Thank you.
I'm in opposition of this zone change for one reason is it's been the way it's been for 15, 20 years since the Krausens sold this into housing. As you can tell to the east, you've got 3 dwellings. There's no covenances. There's nothing down there that protects any of the surrounding people or neighbors. So what my concern is, you can take this 1 acre, stack a bunch of people on it. The water well and the sewer, they're going to be real close together. I think that should be taken into consideration. And it's an agricultural area. I guess we don't want a bunch of people down there destroying what we live down there for. The reason we're there is to be in the rural part of the county. I understand Ortiz's plight there, but I think you should just keep it the same, the 2 acre lots. There's already no covenances down there. I just am in full opposition to this, and for all the other reasons why the neighbors are in opposition also.
No, I have a question.
Commissioner, go ahead.
Mr. Chair, is it possible to have the applicant sort of generally
Yes.
respond to some of these?
Yes, the applicant will have the opportunity to issue a rebuttal. Thank you. Okay. Is there any other public comment? Okay. At this time, would the applicant like to address any of the concerns?
First, I'd like to say, that I understand what you guys are saying, all of you guys. But I believe that just like they have the right to be there and have had it perfectly, I believe that the sewers are made to be drained by the proper, somebody who has maybe a septic tank, trucks that they are exposed. It doesn't go into the ground. They do have them in containers. So the sewer water does come out when it needs to. It needs to be cleared. It gets cleared. It doesn't go into the ground. Am I right? Correct? The water, there is enough water out there, talking about water that's underground for every well. So I believe that's not an issue at all. So, and it has been farmland, and it's been raw farmland for a long time, and I guess nothing has been grown there for a long time also. So it's just dead land right now. So I believe that if they do have an acre per, I don't believe there is really a contamination problem just due to the fact that when you have a cesspool, it is in that container. Once it needs to be cleared out, it is cleared out properly by a professional. The water of the septic does not go into the ground, it stays in this container. So that, I don't agree with them. The next thing is that I believe, and it is a very nice, beautiful area, and if there was to put a restriction that it had to be a double wide only or a built home, so it stays beautiful just like their houses are, I believe we could also do this, maybe put some kind of restriction to avoid them worrying about it being people who are probably gonna be dirty and ugly and all this. I don't think that's probably gonna be the situation. Just the fact that it's so pretty out there that I think people who buy out there would like to keep it the same. So I don't agree with everything that they have said, so that's my defense to it.
Thank you. Any other comment from the commission? All right. Thank you, Ms. Corona, I appreciate you.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chair, I have a question for staff.
Sure.
Under the current T2 zoning, the lot size would have to be 2 acres or larger. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, Chair, just to clarify some of that in regards to the minimum acreage. Yes, the current zoning is T2 right now. And whenever somebody applies for a summary subdivision or a regular subdivision, the minimum acreage is 2 acres. There's multiple ways of subdividing property out in the county. The other one would be a claim of exemption, which kind of like, it's still a subdivision application, but it serves other purposes. One example that I would give is if for some reason, the applicant had 7 family members, each individual family member would be entitled to a piece of property at least 3/4 of an acre in size. That's what's in the code if they were to do a family claim of exemption. So with the acreage that's there on the subject parcel, you divide that by 3/4 of an acre, it's at least seven different lots that each individual family member would be able to get. So that's what's allowed under the existing T2 zone. The applicant's applying for a T3 zone because they want to sell the lots to whomever they want. They don't want to, just be basically capped at selling it to a family member, and then that family member not being able to sell within 5 years. That's kind of like one of the restrictions under that claim of exemption. But because the applicant's proposing a summary subdivision, they do need to get that zone change for a 1 acre minimum.
Okay, thank you.
Can we clear something about the septic tanks that was mentioned? So I know she mentioned cesspools.
Sorry, come back up.
Sorry.
All right.
She mentioned cesspools. Just for clarification, sewage system, yes, it does go into a tank. It is contained, but that is going into a leach field, which is going to go into our water system. I mean, just to make that clear, it's not a cesspool where it fills up and you go empty it every time it happens. Does that make sense? This is a septic tank with a leach field that is going to go into the ground. Clarification.
Thank you. Okay, at this time, I'm going to close public comment. I just want, it's what I do want to address there is that the surrounding properties all contain septics and all carry the same requirements and in some cases risks as well. Any comment from the commission?
Mr. Chair?
Commissioner Jimenez?
I have a question for staff.
I'm
Albert,
sorry, that's Mel.
if this zone that is existing is a T2 zone as opposed versus a T3, can you give us a difference on dwellings on a T2 as opposed to a T3 on that parcel?
The T2 is a 2 acre minimum lot size. So they can put 1 home on that 2 acres. But the T3, they can go down to 6,000 square foot lots if there is sewer, a community sewer available. But for the septic tank, they need at least 3/4 acres to get a permit for the septic tank. These lots are 1 acre or more. There's 2 lots that are bigger than 1 acre. The other ones are 1 acre exactly. So that would meet the requirement of a T3.
But the question I have now is this. On a T2, it would be more than 1 acre, right? How many acres are there total?
There are 5.
So the only way they would be able to do is just to split it by 2 in half, right? And the minimum distance between a well and a septic tank is 100 feet. That's why the state went to a 3/4 acre lot. You
Yes.
cannot have a septic tank within 100 feet from the well site.
That's correct.
So the question I have is, if it remains T2, the only option they would have is to go to a claim of exemption, right?
For a family member, well, they could split it, but with the T2 zoning, they'd only be able to split it in half.
Right. Okay. My concern is first of all, the adjudication of water has not been forced coming from the state engineer south of Elephant Butte. And the other one also is in the event that there is a contamination of the soil there, contamination of the water, that concerns me tremendously. So knowing this now, I guess the commission is ready for a vote.
Okay. Commissioner, do you have a comment? you have a comment?
Thank you. Yes, thank you.
A question, I'm not sure for exactly who, perhaps other commissioners or the staff. The three remaining, or the three lots that are currently subdivided and built on, those are 1 acre lots?
No, they're larger than 1 acre lots.
Let's see.
The ones to the east are larger than 1 acre lots.
And the triangle that we're talking about is a 5 acre lot. We're going to divide that into 1 acre lots.
3 1 acre lots and 2 that are larger than 1 acre.
Now I understand. Okay, I didn't completely understand that. Now I do. Thank you.
Okay, any other input from the commission? Okay. All right, at this time, the chair entertains a motion.
Mr. Chair, for purposes of discussion only, I'm going to follow the wording from staff's recommendation and vote a motion in favor. If I can find staff's recommendation. Please help me out. What page am I on?
Page 6 of 13.
Thank you. 6 of 13?
Yes, at the bottom. Or 43 or 64.
Yeah, I see it. I would vote, my motion is approval of KC 2310-010, a zone change from T2 rural to T3 neighborhood edge to allow higher density residential zone district to allow for smaller lot sizes.
I'll second the motion.
And for discussion only, because I do have a similar concern that other commissioners have raised, and I'm looking for some confirmation that I'm correct here. I am opposed to the increased density generally and the potential impact that it would have environmentally and to the neighborhood. I'm searching for the exact legal basis for that particular opposition.
Janine, Mr. Chair?
Commissioner?
Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Janine, the criteria for denial would be certainly very specific. Am I correct?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Acosta, that is correct. You would have to give your reasons why you're voting no.
All right. Okay. We have the answer.
But staff does believe that this is not a spot zone. It's consistent with the neighboring properties in the area.
Right. Okay. We have a motion on the floor, right? It's been second?
Yes,
I guess we're ready for a roll call.
Yes, we do have a motion, a second. I do want to.
For the audience, there is a reason for voting the way that the motion that I've made. That is procedural. It has to do with the way that we take votes and how we voted for or against it. So the motion for approval is basically purely for discussion purposes only at this point.
Thank you. Commissioner, I just want to, just a statement, I do share your concern with the higher density and not being as consistent with the neighboring properties. That being, with that concern, I do believe that there is a possibility still for it, whether this is, however this is voted today, there is still a possibility for further subdivisions. It's possible that that the applicant, if the applicant is denied, that they could come back with a proposal for larger lots to decrease the density. But even in its current zoning, you know, I do feel that we're probably, I'm gonna ask, you can confirm that there would, even in its current zoning, you could still see a minimum of 4 dwellings on this property if it were subdivided accordingly. Am I correct?
They could have 2 homes, primary homes, and 2 accessory dwellings with a special use permit.
So you're still looking at, you know, at 4 potential dwellings, versus 5. So there's definitely, that's definitely what I consider with the concern for the higher density. It is not a spot zone, and that is, it is not a spot zone. I think we all agree on that. However, I just want to make attempts to stay as consistent as possible with the surrounding community. And that's the only statement I have to this motion. Any further commission input? Okay. Eileen, would you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Underwood?
No.
Commissioner Lear?
No.
Commissioner Jimenez?
No.
Commissioner Acosta?
No.
Chair Montañez?
I'm going to vote yes. However, I would love to, I would like to hear, I'd like to get on record the commissioner's reason for voting no.
I'll go first, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
I vote no on the condition that it appears to be a problem with the safety and general welfare of the public in the existing area, and due to septic tank and wells, and basing it on the adjudication of water coming down in the event that that there's basically no water available to these homes. What else are we going to do since there's not a public service for water? And that's my reason for voting no.
Mr. Chair, my reason for voting no, I would agree with Commissioner Acosta on his reason, but I would also add, given the potential to accomplish what they would like to do, even in a T2, to a significant degree, I don't believe it inhibits the use of the land by the current owners as much as if it was a complete denial and they couldn't change the use. So I'm voting because I think it makes sense to leave it as a T2.
Mr. Chair, I agree with the previous 2 commissioners, and I would also, well, I buttress the recent commissioner's comment about it fits much better the exact zoning that it is at this point, along with the fact that I think there's an increased adverse effect on the remaining, or the residents in the area, with traffic and with air pollution, subject to dirt and so forth, dust accumulating, and traffic generally.
Mr. Chair, I myself share the same concerns of our fellow commissioners. And for that reason, I too voted no.
Thank you, Commissioner Menes. The case has been denied. Thank you all very much. Thank you very much for staff and for testimony given today. At this time, I'm going to just request my fellow commissioners a 5-minute break. I've got to go to the little boys' room. I apologize. The rest of you, please get to know your fellow Doña citizen. We will return shortly. We are ready. Do I have to hit the gavel after a break? Is that? I'm gonna do it just in case. Okay, let's move on to case number V23-003.
Yes, this is a case for a variance for side setback.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Please state your name and address for the record.
Jardine Santisteban, 845 North Motel Boulevard, Las Cruces, New Mexico.
And do you affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth under penalty of law?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, moving forward. The owner applicant is Guadalupe Archuleta and Gloria Martinez, owners, and J.R. Alice is the applicant. The location is 290 Vine Avenue, La Mesa, New Mexico. It's a T3 neighborhood edge, variance to a side yard setback. This is the location of the map, location of the property. This is an aerial of land uses around the area. The property is a 2.5 acre parcel, is residentially zoned T3 neighborhood edge, and is located at 290 Vine Avenue. A double wide is installed on the property, and a single wide mobile home is an accessory dwelling. Access to the property is from Vine Avenue, a 20-foot private road. It's a parcel close-up. The zoning map. The applicant has applied for a claim of exemption to divide the property into 2 lots for family members. Access to the new lot will be through a 25-foot flag lot, creating an encroachment of the east side yard setbacks. The required side setback is 5 foot. The home will encroach 6 inches on the northeast corner and 18 inches on the southeast corner. The 3.6 setback is more than 20% of the 5-foot required setback requirement of the UDC zoning ordinance, which requires a public hearing. And this is a plat of the survey, and you can see how they're going to divide the property. And this is a close-up of the dwelling and the setbacks that are encroaching into that 25-foot flag lot. And need to mention that there's gas meters, 2 gas meters in that 25-foot flag lot that they will have to relocate, and also a electrical pole. 19 letters of notification were mailed to the property owners within the area of notice on June 30th, 2023. Legal ads were placed in the Las Cruces Sun News on July 2nd, 2023. Signs were posted on the property in a timely manner. Agenda was posted in the DAC website. No letters of approval or opposition were received. These are the public notification signs, and as you can see, the gas meter right there in that flag lot area. And this is the area of notification. And this is the existing mobile home, the double wide, with the 2 little doggies there welcoming us. And this is the area that the flag lot will be built on, and you can see the electric pole, and you can see the gas meters there. And this is the west side of the mobile home. Vine Avenue, this is a picture of Vine Avenue. It's pretty narrow, facing east, and this is facing west. The existing conditions, the subject property is in a T3 neighborhood edge zone on 2.5 acres where a 5-foot side yard setback is required. The applicant has applied for a claim of exemption to divide the property into 2 lots for a family member. Access to the new lot will be through a 25-foot flag lot, creating an encroachment of the east side setbacks. The applicant states moving the mobile home would create a hardship since new flooring was installed in the double-wide mobile home. The required side yard setback is 5 feet. The home will encroach 6 inches on the northeast corner and 18 inches on the southeast corner. The 3.6 setback is more than 20% of the 5-foot required setback requirements of the UDC, which requires a public hearing. Water and wastewater are provided by the Lower Rio Grande Public Waste Waterworks Authority, and they're building a lift station at the end of Vine Road. The subject property was purchased in 2013, and a mobile home was placed on the property in 2013. At the time of installing the mobile home, the applicant met all required setbacks. The applicant submitted an application for a claim of extension to create 2 lots. To provide access to the second parcel, a 25-foot lot road easement is being created. With the creation of a 25-foot flag lot, the required setback will encroach into the 25-foot road easement. Findings, the variance will not, these are the findings for a variance. There's 4 criteria points. The variance, that they have to meet this criteria in order to apply for a variance and to be denied or approved. The variance will not constitute a grant of special privilege inconsistent with the limitations on other properties in the area of notice. Number 2, the variance will not be detrimental to the public health, safety, or welfare, or be materially injurious to properties or improvements in the area of notice. There is a physical hardship resulting from the size or shape of the parcel, or from existing structures of the parcel, or from topographic or physical conditions on the site or in the area of notice, and the hardship is not self-imposed. And the variance upholds the purpose and intent of this chapter. Public safety and welfare are secured and substantial. Justice is done. So on the first one, the criteria findings, the variance will constitute a grant of special privilege inconsistent with the limitations of other properties in the area of notice. The requested east side yard setback of 3.6 and 4.7, where a 5-foot setback is required, will encroach on the 25-foot lot, access to the lot created with a claim of exemption. Number 2, the variance will be detrimental to the public health, safety, or welfare, or the materially injurious to the properties or improvements in the area of the notice. The 3.6 and 4.7 side yard setback will be located next to the driveway of the proposed lot split. Number 3, there is no physical hardship resulting from the creation of a 25-foot flag lot road easement of the claim of exemption, splitting the property into 2 lots. The only existing hardship is self-imposed. The mobile home has new flooring and will be ruined if the double wide is moved to conform to the 5-foot east side setback. Number 4, granting of the variance will not uphold the spirit and intent of the UDC, create orderly, harmonious, economically sound development in order to promote the health, safety, and general welfare of the residents of the county. The staff recommendations based on the finding of facts, staff analysis, and variances meeting the 350-207B findings and UDC compliant. For a variance request, staff recommends denial of case number B23003. This concludes my presentation.
Thank you very much, Eileen. Any questions for staff?
Mr. Chair, I have a question. Although it's not explicitly spelled out in your presentation, I'm assuming that the 25-foot width road is the minimum width you can have there.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Per the county engineering department.
Mr. Chair, staff, the remaining, or the smaller portion, 0.429 acres, is that consistent with a certain zoning? Or that the reason it's here is that it's not, right?
It's a 2.5 acre lot.
Right.
And it's a T3, so they can go down to 6,000 square feet if they have sewer. But right now, they're, they're with the lower Rio Grande utility there.
Okay, but .429 acres,
They have 2.5 acres.
with the remaining, the .429 acres, that it's the smaller portion, is that not 4.429 acres, track one?
Chair, yes, per the plat of survey submitted by the applicant, the proposed lot under track one would be 0.429 acres. The remaining would be a little bit more than 2 acres.
That's 18,000 square feet, and that's consistent with the new proposed zoning, is that right? Okay. I have 18,687. Just checking for my understanding of what's.
Yes, when you convert it over to square feet, yes, 18,687 square feet would be the size of track one.
Okay.
Which, if sewer is available, then it would comply with the T3 zoning.
That was one of the, thank you very much.
Any other questions of staff? Okay, thank you very much, Charlene. Go ahead and I'd like to hear from the applicant.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner?
I'm sorry I didn't jump in the gun there first. Creating a flag lot would create a lot of problems, and we don't allow flag lots, okay? But one of the reasons that concerns me the most is, I know it's an economic hardship, number one. However, the flag zones in times past have probably created problems called the spite zone or spite strip, okay? And when you don't allow, because you could landlock everything. If you don't like, even in family members, if you don't like your family member, you can lock them out, right? Toll gate, whatever, right? And that's a spite strip. So flag lots to me are very concerned and should not be allowed, and they're not allowed. So when we get ready to ask the petitioner how this came about, that on the actual moving of the utility lines and all, we need to ask what they really intend to do. And so just remember what I said, okay? Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, at this time, I'll again call the applicant to speak. That's okay, go ahead, come on up.
Good morning. Please state your name and address for the record.
J.R. Ellis, 751 Stern Drive, Suite 107, Las Cruces, New Mexico, 88005.
Do you affirm the testimony you're about to give today is the truth under penalty of law?
I do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Mr. Ellis.
Good morning, Commissioners,
Morning.
Chairman. My name is J.R. Ellis, and I represent Guadalupe, which is Lupe Archuleta and Gloria Martinez, who are sisters in this variance case. Just a brief history on this tract of land and my concerns for the variance in order to proceed with our claim of exemption application. Manuel and Guadalupe, which are the parents of my clients, they acquired this tract in 1972 as a husband and wife. In 1991, Manuel Gonzalez, the sibling's father, passed away, and the property went to Lupe as a surviving spouse. In 2013, Guadalupe gift deeded this tract to both Gloria and Guadalupe. A mom passed away in 2016. Now both siblings need to split their land into, so each daughter can have the title to their proper tract via the claim of exemption family subdivision for 2 lots, per mom's and dad's desire. During the last 51 years, there's been multiple 911 calls where the fire trucks and ambulance have been dispatched to this location, have gone to the second mobile home, which was permitted back in 1996, to the back of the property with no problems with ingress or ingress. In the fall of last year, the Archuletas replaced their floor on the double wide, and in 2021, they replaced the metal roof on this double wide. with all the proper permitting through Doña County. In order for us to get an administrative approval, my clients would need to move the double wide mobile home, a total of 6 inches in order to get an administrative approval. 6 inches is a lot smaller than the width of a sheet of paper. This is not feasible, as movers have advised myself that this would be a very expensive move, as both portions of the mobile home would have to be moved, destroying the new floor and the new metal roof, and also need to extend all the plumbing, the electric, gas, water lines. They would need to get permits to move the home 6 inches and then get permits to do the utilities and inspections and whatnot. As the county has recommended denial due to the spirit of the UDC, all appreciation will be on your consideration for the approval of this variance in order to proceed with the claim of exemption process for the family split. I appreciate your concerns and appreciate your, if you take in consideration my clients' desires and what they want to do.
Thank you. Does anybody have questions for Mr. Ellis?
One question, if I can, Mr. Chair. Mr. Ellis, one commissioner has mentioned, who's on the phone, his concern about the flag lot situation, potentially rendering the remaining lot inaccessible in some fashion. Is that dedicated now and forever as access, that 25 feet?
Well, that is based on the county standards. They make us do that because we're not going to give a 50-foot easement and an additional 25 or 27 of that easement improved. Now, they gave us the option to do a flag lot, which, if I believe it's correct, it is available through the UDC. You can do a flag lot, and that's what my client wants to do, is maintain the flag lot. And we understand that there's an encroachment, but we would appreciate if you can consider the approval versus the denial that the staff recommendation came in at.
I had a couple of concerns. One, I think the building code concern of at least the building itself, but then I see there's the 25-foot easement. I think it's an easement.
No, sir, it's not an easement.
What
It's
is
a
it?
driveway, it's a flag lot.
Okay,
It's not an easement, it's a flag lot.
okay. I guess I need to ask staff for distinction between the two.
Sorry, that was my mistake. Yes, it is a driveway and not an easement.
So is the flag lot itself, is that now and forever?
That is in the plat and how they're going to divide the property, and that's,
Chair, just real quick, a flag lot would make, and I'll just call it the driveway per se. The flag lot itself would make that portion part of the rest of the property. It's not an easement, it's the actual property. It's just that in order to create that, they need to have a minimum of 25 feet of width. But it's not an easement because it's still part of the property. The code, if they were to propose an easement, at a minimum, it would have to be 50 feet wide. And the easement will not be, even though it's within the property, it's not part of the property. It's just an easement dedicated for road and utility purposes.
So this is not wide enough as a fire truck access then, right? Or is it 20 foot, 25 foot?
Because they're proposing a flag lot, the code requires a minimum width of 25 feet.
Okay.
Thank you. Any other?
I have a question. I'm sure you've thought of this. I'm just wondering, I see that there is a road that accesses the south end of this property. Is that a viable road? And is it possible to have an entrance from that side?
Well, as a landowner, I don't believe you can own an easement on your own property. So that is their convenient way to get to the back mobile home.
But what I'm saying is, I think it's called Estray Road to the south. Is that a viable road, or is that just a trail or a dirt road? Or
I'm sorry, I'm not, is that to the very south of that 2.5 acre tract?
yeah, there's a.
No, I don't think that road exists.
Okay.
There's not I don't think there is.
I just saw that it was named, so I was assuming that it might be some kind of a road. I just don't, I guess my question is it a viable?
It's not a road, it's not being used.
Okay. Oh, it's a,
Mr.
okay, it's
Chair.
a ditch lane. Okay, thank you.
So it is a ditch there.
Irrigation.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner, go ahead.
a question for Albert. On prescriptive rights, being used, nobody claims it, right? But it belongs to them, right? On the other side of the property?
Yeah, if the variance is approved, then they move forward with the claim of exemption, and the claim of exemption is approved, that flag lot, that pole would be part of track number 2. It'll be physically part of track number 2.
The reason being is this: if they have access to a secondary ingress and egress, okay? I mean, I'm just running this by there because the thing then what we would do is any type of road or what, well, not road, path, whatever. We could say that has to transfer in the event that the family members decide to sell. That goes in perpetuity with that property in the time of sale, right? As a condition, right?
Commissioner Acosta, yes. Like I mentioned before, it's not a road easement, so whatever's transferred over would be part of the legal description tied to whatever conveyance document is being done. So there will be a description for that 25-foot pole or driveway as part of track number 2.
See, the other thing that bothers me a little bit, well, quite a bit, as a matter of fact, in the event that we were to allow it, I mean, that's an event, right? And somebody builds houses there, and the question I have, would these pathways or whatever you want to call them, would a emergency vehicle be able to put out a fire or emergency equipment going through there in and out? Because in that area, they do round robins, I believe, for fire. And the question I have is, would that be accessible to do that, or? Because you're looking at the vehicles that are very, very heavy, and I'm not too sure in case there was a rain or whatever, that there would be no way to, address the issues as an emergency situation.
We did have the fire marshal provide us with some agency comments, Commissioner, and basically all they said was that any new improvements or additions to the existing proposal will be required to meet the IFC 2021 fire code. Those were the only comments. I believe the applicant has already stated that there has been instances where fire emergency vehicles have gone to the property with no issues.
But just to address the issue that's there now, the mobile home that's there now, right? But not beyond that.
Yeah, I'd be concerned about that too.
Yes, Commissioner, the issue in hand is that the 25-foot the 25-foot flag lot is going to create some setback issues with the existing mobile home that's already there. By having it at 25 feet, they're only going to be about 3.5 feet away from what would be the property line for track number 2.
Okay, I follow.
And Albert, is there an alternative to repair this condition physically?
Well, that's why we're here today. I mean, the only other alternative would be to have the applicant relocate that mobile home and meet the 5-foot side setback that's required.
Well, that's the reason why I thought it would pose a very an economic hardship for the owner. But we're here at hand, so flag lots basically are not allowed. So we have a serious issue here.
Well, and then just to clarify that, I mean, it might not be the best way of creating a lot, but the UDC itself does not prohibit flag lots. It is something that is allowed under the current standards. When we look at section 350-502C, that talks about lots, driveways, and residential access, flag lots it is an option that's in there. And it does give out a minimum width of 25 feet. So it is something that's allowed under the current UDC. It might not be the best practice, but it is allowed.
Okay, so that basically allows, that allows to go to let this case go forward, because I mean, now we have legal standing regarding a flag lot.
Commissioner, yes, and then the only issue would be to address the setbacks.
So the setback would be what, 6 inches?
Setback, if we apply the 25-foot flag lot, the closest point of the existing mobile home would only be 3.5 feet, and 5 feet is the requirement.
But we can allow the variance because it does pose an economic hardship.
That could be one of the findings if the commission wishes to go that way.
Mr. Chair, can I, so it's my understanding that currently the property as it is, one big lot, is, meets all the requirements for setback and everything. There's no issue right now. So the issue of the setback is created when the owner wants to subdivide and create the second lot. So if this is denied, basically nothing has to be done. I mean, they don't have to move anything or change anything or move any electrical poles or do anything else. They're in compliance right now. So this is a property owner created issue because they're deciding to create the second lot.
The issue would be that, yes, I mean, they are deciding to create the second lot, but they're not meeting the side setback.
Right.
Because of the location of the existing mobile home. If the variance is denied, the only option for the applicant to move forward with the proposed split would be to relocate that mobile home and meet the setback requirements.
And they do have another option, that is to not subdivide.
That would be another option too.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair?
Mr.
Chair.
Commissioner, go ahead.
But in hand, as we see it now, we have legal standing on the flag lot. There is the issue that it's going to be an economic hardship. The other one also that I think that we should look into consideration is this, that on condition, on a variance, the variance, it poses economic hardship, and that's okay. The problem with this now is, in the event that we say yes to this case, I would like to see a condition that any time that property sold, given, whatever, to the remaining area, that there is not going to be blockage in the event that a family member builds and then wants to sell, and then all of a sudden the original owner says, I don't like that new guy, so I'm going to put a block there. And so in perpetuity, I think that they should have full access to their properties back there as part of the condition into the case, okay?
Mr. Chair, I have a question of the applicant, if I may. Mr. Ellis. Mr. Ellis.
Yes, sir.
Would you consider having an easement in that 25-foot strip instead of just the connection, the contiguous connection to the remaining lot?
I don't think I can't answer that. My clients would have to answer that, but
here's why I'm asking, because that creates a building code violation right there. And if someone could actually technically build something that would be right next to that spot, and the other aspect is fire department access to that back space. So I'm leaning against voting for this for that reason right there, but I can see a potential that you might approach this commission or the zoning department about having an easement there instead and then approaching it that way. Have you considered that?
An easement outside of the proposed property line?
Where you have a 25-foot strip that
I
serves.
don't think my clients would be opposed to that, having an easement.
Okay, I'd like you to consider that, because
We
I
would
think the
definitely
way it's
consider that.
presented here, I would be voting against it based on what I've heard so far.
Can I consult with my clients really quick?
Well, I don't know if you can do it at this point, but just think about that as maybe a next step
Consider that?
if this happens to be denied.
Yes, sir, I think my clients would be,
Okay, thank you.
agree with that.
Mr. Chair?
Commissioner Jimenez.
We've heard a little bit regarding the utilities having to be moved in the event we were to approve this here today. Is there any, this question may be for staff, is there any reason that the utilities were allowed to be placed where they are, considering they received past approval and followed all permitting? Why would they have to be moved now, but we're not required to be in a specific location previously?
Commissioner Jimenez, because it was all one property. I mean, they were allowed to have utilities anywhere within their property. So now that they're proposing the property split and where those utilities are currently sitting, it's basically going to be their driveway, then yes, they have to be relocated. So because before it was one property and now they're proposing to split, that's one of the conditions that we're looking at, that they relocate all those utilities so that they're within the property that they actually serve.
And if passed here today, those costs would fall on the property owner, correct?
It will be all under the property owner. That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Chair, to go back to Commissioner Underwood's comment, even if there was an easement there versus the pole or the 25-foot flag lot, the way we have the definition for setbacks, we would have to count the distance from that mobile home to the edge of that easement. It wouldn't be all the way to the other property line. So
Right,
the issue
right.
would still be the same.
I understand. But with I mean, it would still have to come here, obviously, for that setback question. I acknowledge that. I'm just saying that at least from a building code perspective, you now have an extra 25 feet in addition to that 3.5 feet. So that meets, that it curtails that as an issue generally.
Okay. Any response from staff? Okay. Any further questions from staff, from the commission? Okay, Mr. Ellis, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Is there any public comments? Anybody in favor or against? Okay, this time we'll close public comment. Okay, any commission input? Further commission input? Okay, this time the chair calls for a motion.
Mr. Chair, for the purpose of, again, discussion, I move that variance case 350-207B be approved.
Okay, no conditions. No. Okay. Okay, a motion for approval has been made.
I'll second that.
Okay.
And the reason for that, obviously, is the manner of voting. I am against this particular proposal, so I'll be voting against it.
Any further input from the commission? Any further comments, commissioners?
Okay, Mr. Chair?
Commissioner Acosta?
Okay, does everybody understand the motion, number one?
I think I understand it.
Chair, just to clarify, the motion was to approve the variance.
And Albert, is there any way that we can also put a condition on that, that there will be, access to the property for any future use with, transfer with perpetuity?
Yeah, I mean, if that's one of the conditions that the PNC feels necessary, sure.
And only because things change with family and friends and neighbors, okay? So just to protect the people that are in there, all of them, okay?
I believe the motion would have to be, or that amendment would have to be accepted by the rest of the commissioners.
So, Commissioner Acosta, would you like to make an amendment to the motion? Would you like to propose an amendment to the
I'd
motion?
like to make a friendly amendment to that motion, transfer of ingress and egress to their additional property. That if property is sold, transferred, leased, or whatever, given, that they have access to those properties back there.
Commissioner Acosta, this is Commissioner Underwood. Just to clarify, I'm going to be voting against this motion. It was a motion to approve based on the formal need to make that motion in order to deny the motion. So I'd be voting against the motion whether or not it has an amendment.
Let me clarify this, okay? We have never allowed, as long as I've been there, to do a yes vote on a, in other words, if you vote yes, you're actually voting no. And if you vote no, you're actually voting yes. I'd like to have a clarification. It's either going to be an up and out vote, up or down vote. I don't want to go through this other circle of stuff. That's not good for anybody. We need to know exactly what we're doing here. It's going to be a yes or a no.
Commissioner
But not
Acosta,
vote yes.
Commissioner Acosta, the motion on the floor is to approve the variance request, meaning that a vote of yes would be for approval, a vote of no would be for denial. I believe Commissioner Underwood is just making this case that he will be voting no, even though he made the motion to approve it. He's just making that clear.
Correct.
But
Yes, I got it.
a vote of yes would be to approve the variance, and a vote of no would be to deny it.
Okay. Okay.
All right, so we do have a motion and a second. We do not have an amendment to the motion. Commissioner Acosta, or does the commission wish to issue an amendment to the motion?
I have no interest in the amendment.
Okay. Any further comment? Eileen, would you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Acosta?
Yes.
Commissioner Jimenez?
No.
Commissioner Lear?
No.
Commissioner Underwood?
No.
Commissioner Montañez?
No. And thank you. At this time, everybody just give a brief sentence on your denial, on your no vote.
Yes, Mr. Chair, Commissioner Jimenez here. My no vote is based off staff recommendations regarding variances meeting section 350-207B of our UDC compliance and variances.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, my no vote is following the staff recommendation to deny this.
Mr. Chair, this is Commissioner Underwood. Mine is as well, with comporting with staff recommendations based on 350.207B, findings in UDC compliance.
Okay. Commissioner Acosta?
Oh, he voted
for
it.
I voted yes.
He voted yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. He voted yes. Thank you. I also I join my fellow commissioners in this no vote based on findings of fact and based on as well as staff recommendation, and there are quite a few inconsistencies with the setback requirements should this have passed. Okay, that that concludes case number V23-003. This time we'll move to administrative approvals. Janine, you have the floor.
If Billy could put up the map for the June building permits. And if not, it's in the last page of your packet. Did you? No? Okay. Well, for the month of June, we issued 19 new single-family residential building permits that is mapped on the last page of your packet. Okay. There were 6 of them in the Melody subdivision. So they combined that label there. And then what is also mapped are 1 new commercial building permit, and that was for a restaurant at the Sierra, I can't think of the greenhouse in La Union, Sierra Vista Farms.
Okay.
So they'll be expanding with a restaurant and merchandise facility. And then we also issued 27 mobile home permits. 16 were on private land and 7 were on, 4 were on mobile. 16 were on private land, 7 were on private land and were triple feed, and 4 were in mobile home parks.
Great.
Okay, for a total of 27. So we brought in $50,360 in permits for June.
All right. Thank you very much.
Any questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay. This time we'll move to staff input.
Oh, yes, Mr. Chair, I did want to announce that Commissioner Castañeda has put in his resignation. So we will be recruiting for the vacant position, and hopefully we'll have an appointment within 6 weeks or so.
Okay. I know we can't announce, or we can't really recommend anybody in particular, but it'd be nice to call this guy. I know his name rhymes with Will Hargis. That would be nice.
Okay, right.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to commission input.
Chair, just one more thing. In regards to previous cases, we do have 2 appeals to the BOCC. One of them is going to be the Dollar General that we heard down south, the first Dollar General that came in. That one got appealed. And then the last cannabis case that we heard for Mr. Page off of Desert Wind and North Star, that one got appealed as well. So
That was a denial? Or was that an approval?
the neighborhood.
The neighborhood?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mr. Chair?
Commissioner Acosta?
Just recently, a radio station, but University KRWG, Casey Counts, had several people from the state, including Joseph Cervantes, senator, regarding the adjudication of water and water issue. Dr. Zerniak and I have been very concerned about getting information from some of these people, the state engineer and some of their associates. And I would like to also ask Christina and Janine and Albert if they can actually extend an invitation for them to give us more insight as to what's going on with water. We have a lot of restrictions south of the Elephant Butte reservoir, but hardly anything north of there. So we need to find out exactly what's going on. And I base it on the fact that there's an influx of people coming in. I don't know what the percentage is, but you actually know that there's a lot of people coming in, migration of people from other states for whatever their reasoning is coming to the area. So we'd like to know if there would be any way that some of these people that are involved with this lawsuit between these 3 states, how is it that they're going to adjudicate water? And I'd like to know, and we could invite farmers and everybody, and maybe have several work sessions to see what they recommend, just like we did with the state highway engineer. For highways, we need to address these issues. So So I base that on Christina and Janine and Albert to see if they can help us out, so they can disseminate information to the general public.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. So I guess I was under the assumption that the Dollar General application that was denied, that they just decided to move over to this location that we approved. I guess I was incorrect on that. Are we do we have scheduled cases for our next meeting?
I don't think we do.
Oh, really? Okay.
We will have some cases on the second meeting of August.
Okay. So we can all plan to be here on August 2nd. I can't wait to see all of you. Is there anything further from the commission before? Okay, at this time the chair calls for an adjournment. Okay, so we're adjourned. I like to hit the gavel really loud, like really make a. Thank you all.